One thing that I can say about Hedera right now that I can't really say for most projects is just how many big moves have been being made. And a lot of this has to go back to the dev activity on Hedera. I want to put a spotlight on this and I want to talk about that, but I also want to address a price prediction. A price prediction for HBAR this cycle. Sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So we already know that HBAR did a very, very strong move already this cycle. If we look back on the 1 year, we're still up about 99.6%. If you're going off the lows and you're looking at the price today, we're obviously up well over that. But one thing that I have been noticing is the supply, right? We're almost at the full supply released, which means token dilution is no longer a concern. And on top of that, we continue to see major moves happening around building and expansion of the Hedera ecosystem. This is very good to see. Even though the market has been pretty negative and quiet regarding these initiatives because of course, price action. But even if we look at Hedera, they continue to make moves every single day. Legends of the Past. This is a mobile game, a Web3 based mobile game that now is open to the Hedera community for early access. This is what the game looks like. You might not think that it looks incredible, but this is a mobile game essentially. I think that when we are looking at bridging the gap between, Web3 and retail in a huge way, achieving mass adoption, it's going to happen through retail, user-facing apps. We talk about this with sports and sports betting like Karate Combat. We talk about it with, social media applications like Galaxy, which is also built out on Hedera. And of course, mobile games, right? Games in general, not just mobile games, but gaming. These are huge pieces of the retail sector that could ultimately bring in the next 100 million, 200 million, 500 million, even 1 billion users. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen over time. And it all starts with the quality of these apps and games. Now, again, this is a project that I have been following for quite some time, and you might not think it, but this is actually pretty high quality for, mobile games. And I think that this could be something very special. Now, we know that Hedera is not shy to the gaming side. We know that Hedera has been supporting the gaming sector around crypto since going all the way back to like 2021. So we'd love to see this. But outside of that, we also got a pretty big update actually around SushiSwap. So we have a brand refresh is coming, a full site overhaul is coming as well, ERC20 support on deck, and some bigger things under wraps but deep in dev. It feels like the start of a new chapter. Now, we already know that this DEX has been very successful over time. Right now, about $62 million in TVL tied to it, over 3.5 almost billion dollars worth of trading volume. We could also see the all-time trades nearing 10 million as well. We love to see that. And in fact, they actually recently put out an update regarding all the growth. Now, like I said, when it comes to SushiSwap, I was there for the launch. Kind of feels like it's a crazy time to be in this space because that was 2.7 years ago. Okay, it does not feel like that long ago, but hey, 2.7 years ago. In 2.7 years, SushiSwap has processed over 9.4, almost 9.5 million trades within 980 days. That's an average of 9,667 trades per day, 67,671 trades per week, and 3.53 million trades per year. That's not staking. That's not liquidity pooling or reward claims. Just trades. Real usage, real utility. And again, I watched this project launch in the middle of a bear market. In the middle of a bear market, and they are this successful today. It just goes to show you, when you build something that is high quality, it amounts to major success. I'm very happy about seeing these numbers. But on top of that, right, we could see the dev activity. The dev activity is not going unnoticed. We are now witnessing over 394% growth around dev activity for Hedera. Now, this is compared to Multiverse, Ripple, Morpho Labs, WorldCoin. I mean, guys, these are some pretty big networks out there, some pretty big, projects as well. But I tried to find a very good, reliable source. Obviously, we could use Chain Broker for this as well if we wanted to. But I mainly wanted to see how many active commits there were happening on Hedera. Now, I found this one. Again, the most up-to-date is about November 1st, but we could actually see the monthly active devs was over 167, full-time devs over 66, total repos about 1.6K, and then also total commits over 626,000. We could also see the active devs by tenure. We could also see the active developers by type as well. Again, it's just showing us that we are seeing some significant growth happening around the network, even monthly commits. We at one point in time, we hit over 35,000, and that was back in the summer of 2024. So that's recent. And today we already know that, the dev activity is still hitting, some pretty highs. And what's crazy about this is a lot of people are still, not noticing how big of a name Hedera is becoming. Now, talking about that, I do want to address the current market dynamic, right? Because, again, we're talking about a price prediction for HBAR. We're talking about where Hedera can go. With all of the growth happening around Hedera, with Hedera becoming a bigger name, we really kind of look at some of these top projects. And number one, right off the bat, I'm looking at XRP. Why? Is it because I'm biased and I talk about XRP quite a bit on this channel? Sure, you could say that. Or you could say the fact that XRP did over a 590% run up from the lows back in October and November to the high that it hit back in January. Now, this was 77 days, okay? In 77 days, XRP ran 591%. Now, HBAR did over an 800 and almost 60% push off of those same lows and to the same highs around January. This was also in 77 days. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Nick, doesn't that mean that we already topped out and that we're selling off and we're going to a bear market? You could say that, sure. Or you could look at this from a realistic view. This was the initial wave. The next wave will be much larger. And if we're thinking about that, right, we're not just talking about the percentage gain to the upside. No, we're actually looking at market cap. Because although HBAR did outperform XRP in percentage pushed, check out the market cap here. XRP gained over 600% in market cap, but that gain was over $167 billion. Just for reference, HBAR's current market cap is trading at about $7 billion, and at the high, it was at $15.34 billion. That means that XRP did over a 10x in just market cap than where it did hit in terms of its high. Think about that. If we were to 10x the market cap of HBAR from the high that it recently hit, just for reference, we would be trading also at around roughly, and this is where things get a little bit crazy, we're talking about almost $167 billion for HBAR. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Not exactly. But the thing that I mainly want you guys to understand here is that sometimes it's not just about percentage gained. Sometimes you also have to look at market cap. A lot of people will say today that HBAR, there's no way HBAR hits $1, let alone $2. But XRP gained over $167 billion in market cap, and that happened in less than 80 days. When we are comparing market caps to HBAR, and we look initially at XRP, this is current market cap, by the way. That would mean a $2.88 HBAR, or a 17.39x. BNB, $86.16 billion, a $2.04 HBAR, 12.3x. Solana at $72.10 billion, $1.71, a 10.3x gain. The rest here, Well, we're talking about roughly 3.2 to 3 almost 4x, a 53.5 to 55.5 cent roughly HBAR. And that's just at the current market cap of ADA, Tron, and Doge. But what about the all-time highs of some of those? Like Tron. Well, you're talking about an 85 cent HBAR or a 5.12x. Okay, ADA. $95 billion in market cap, a 13.5, almost 13.6x gain, $2.25. Dogecoin, 12.68x, $2.10, 88 almost $8 billion. And then last but not least, Solana, $127.4 billion, an upside of 18.19x. This would be a $3.02 HBAR. Now, what do I think is the most realistic price prediction for HBAR this cycle if I'm being conservative and I'm not being overly bullish? Well, then I would be looking at $1 HBAR. I think that that's a safe start. You know, it's a little over $36 billion in market cap if we're just talking about like this 85 cent push. I think $1 is a safe bet. But if I'm going off of all of the information that I know, if I'm going off of all of the moves that Hedera has been making recently, and again, these are just small moves. I'm not even talking about some of the biggest moves. You know, if we look at the media here, we could see all of those big moves happening throughout the last few months. Their engagement on socials, the growth has been absolutely tremendous. Hedera has become a household name essentially around crypto, and I do believe that that's only going to continue going forward. So if we know all of this information and we know about all the partnerships, we know about the potential, you know, around this tech. We also know that there's a lot more announcements that have yet to actually hit the market this year. Like for an example, the Philippine bank stablecoin initiatives that are going to be launching this year. Like all of these announcements, all of these big headlines, guess what? They're all pressure. In fact, I'm going to be making an XRP video talking about this that will go live later today. I want you guys to understand that if we're being extremely bullish and we're throwing, you know, conservative ideas out of the question, I really don't see why HBAR could not hit the high of like $2 to $3. Now you might say, well, Nick, you're crazy. That's $127 billion. Yeah, it might be, but that's adding $120 billion to the market cap of HBAR currently. I have watched XRP in 70 some days run up over $167 billion. These things are possible. Do they happen often? No. Are they rare? Yes. Which is why I said if I'm going extremely bullish, I do believe that HBAR could hit $2 to $3. Now at $2, we're talking roughly about, you know, 80 some billion dollars in market cap. That's an, you know, additive of like roughly $73 billion in market cap. That's not unlikely. That's things that have happened over time in the past. So in my opinion, a safe range on HBAR, $1, $1.50, majorly bullish, $2 to $3. Because of what's been happening, because of the supply release, I really don't see what's really holding back Hedera anymore. Before we've had fears about, all right, well, there's a lot more supply to be released. We have to, you know, be concerned about this. I don't think that there's anything holding back Hedera, and especially with how bullish the environment is right now around crypto in the US, and it's only growing outside of the US as well. I do think that Hedera is about to take center stage, and I think that, you know, HBAR is going to surprise a lot of people going forward. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this is Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.